Anyway, we're not talking about John Popper or harmonicas or
No.
anything like that today. What we're talking about is the mysteries of Göbekli Tepe, and I think I solved the mystery, Greg.
I can't wait.
I'm pretty sure that I have figured something interesting out that I have never heard anybody else talk about, but I pieced it together.
Kingdoms rise and empires crumble, and the knowledge and wisdom from past ages are lost in the foggy ruins of time. But for genuine seekers of truth, one place stands alone on a hill, shining brightly in the darkness. You, dear listener, have reached the Hidden Citadel.
Hey, welcome to the Hidden Citadel.
You found us.
If I'm a little extra blinky in this episode, my eyes are so full of sawdust because this last week I have been building an electric upright base, and it's like I can't seem to get the sawdust out of my eyes. And I wear glasses and everything, but that sawdust gets everywhere. But I built the body out of cherry, and I made the neck out of Osage orange and walnut. Well, the problem with Osage orange is it's kind of like when you get the Osage orange sawdust on you,
Yeah.
it's like getting poison ivy. I mean, it really makes you itch. And so I think I got some of that up in my eyes, and that's why I'm like blinking so much today. But
Where did you get the wood? Where did you get the cherry and the Osage orange?
so the Osage orange I brought down my brother brought it down to me from Indiana because they have massive, we call it hedgewood in Indiana.
Yeah.
And they have massive hedge trees all over my mom and dad's property.
Mm-hmm.
And so they cut down. I asked him to bring me a plank of Osage orange wood, and instead he brought me a tree trunk.
So you had to mill it?
I had to mill it out with a chainsaw
wow.
and everything, and it's been sitting there for 5 or 6 years. He brought it quite some time back, and I just cut off pieces as I need it,
Wow.
And I got
cherry?
a lot of it. So one of my students, this is so cool. Shout out to Rick if he's watching. He gave me, when he moved, he had a really nice wood shop that he set up in his shed,
Mm-hmm.
and he said, do you want to buy any of my tools or in his basement, and he said, do you want to buy my tools because I'm moving into a condo and I can't take any of these tools with me. And so I went and I bought, I think it was this router table, because I needed a router table. I really needed a lot of tools, and he had a lot of really nice tools. And when it got down to it was moving day pretty much, and nobody had bought many of his tools, so he ended up giving me the rest. He gave me a table saw and a nice sander and a planer and a planer joiner and just a whole bunch of really nice tools.
Yeah.
And he says, I want you to send me pictures whenever you build something. So he also gave me a lot of wood.
Yeah.
And he had planks and planks and planks of cherry wood that he was going to make into a bookshelf. And I want to build a bookshelf here behind me. And so I'm waiting. I've got all the materials to do it. I'm just waiting for my son-in-law because he wants to help me build it.
Yeah.
So when they move here, probably in July, we'll go ahead and build the bookshelf together.
Right.
And it'll be cherry. We'll make the whole thing out of cherry. But I have so much of it that I was like, well, let me take one of the planks and I'll build a base out of it. So I laminated for the neck the Osage, the cherry. I had some teak from a piano that I took apart.
Yeah.
So it's teak, cherry, Osage, and walnut in the neck.
I know Mario's listening to this because he follows the Hidden Citadel. I want Deglin to hear this. He's gonna be
Really, you'll have to email him.
He might drive to your house to see this.
He should, man. He should come down. Maybe what I need to do is when I get it finished and I learn how to play something on it, we'll film me playing something when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about Mario the other day, and I was like, I think what I need to do is when I die, I need to have my tombstone read, "He knew all the lyrics to Hook."
He's still impressed with that. Willie, it was almost like Jim on Taxi when he's sitting at the party and he's playing piano and he's playing plink 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 like Mary had a then he unleashes like this Amadeus Mozart. And then he stops. He goes. I must have taken lessons.
Yeah.
Well, you were at the party at the Clifford's house, and you're playing piano. And you're like, blink, 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 blink. All of a sudden, you're like, tuck it in, and you're going all. We were like,
all in.
Whoa! Nobody's singing along because we're just all in awe. I mean, it was like,
most people can't sing along to that one. It's a hard one to sing to.
But we're all like. Oh.
You know, I never did quite master the harmonica part, though. I'm pretty close on the harmonica with that song, but not quite right. But you know, I've met John Popper before, and John Popper's a really neat guy, and but he didn't give me a harmonica. I really wanted one, but I don't know. Shout out to John Popper.
Yeah,
he probably would like a show like this.
That's
it seems
right.
like
he would.
He probably would.
I like his fishing vest that has all the places for the harmonicas.
I like that too. He could put them all in there. Back when I worked with him, yeah, right. When I worked with him, he had he was still using the old SM58 mic that had the buttons on it that he could change, and he had an orange amp, a Fender Twin, a Leslie cabinet, and some other, maybe it was a Marshall, and he could flip between them, or he could turn them all on together, and he would get all sorts of different sounds out of those amps for his harmonica.
That's insane.
Yeah, it was cool.
Idea. Yeah,
it was neat. I helped set that rig up for him that day.
That's so cool.
It was neat. Anyway, we're not talking about John Popper or harmonicas or anything like that today. What we're talking about is the mysteries of Göbekli Tepe. And I think I solved the mystery, Greg.
I can't wait.
I'm pretty sure that I have figured something interesting out that I have never heard anybody else talk about, but I pieced it together. I was using Google Gemini, and I was just like, man, I don't know enough about Göbekli Tepe, and I need to have some talking points to kind of get us started, because I knew you knew a lot more about Göbekli Tepe, I think, than I probably did, but I was like, oh, maybe not. I wasn't sure if either one of us did, so I wanted some talking points.
Yeah.
So I started going through the talking points, and then all of a sudden, I was like, well, wait a minute, and I started asking the right questions, and all of a sudden, I started finding some connections that I don't think people have pieced together yet. So I figure I can kind of go down through the 20 questions first, and just kind of give like an overview, because that's really all these are, and then we can dive into the really mysterious stuff. So basically, it said that number one, it kind of flips the timeline of civilization. So for decades, the accepted historical model was that agriculture led to settled cities, which then led to religion and monumental architecture.
Right.
But what we see with Göbekli Tepe is the exact opposite of this, because we know for a fact that this is a massive temple complex.
Yes.
And it came before anything. So it was almost as if the gathering for rituals forced people into being hunter-gatherers.
Yeah.
We're going to come back to that, because in the Bible, it doesn't expressly say it, and I don't even think it really expressly says it in the book of Enoch.
Yeah.
But we get this picture from the two that the Nephilim were massive eaters, and they pretty much forced people into feeding them.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking, well, if these people are hunting down elephants for their tribe, I wonder if one of the tribe members might be a Nephilim, and that's why they're hunting down mammoths and stuff.
Yeah.
We'll come back to that later.
Okay.
Now, it's radically ancient, allegedly. So it dated roughly between 9,600 and 8,000 BC, making it over 11,500 years old, which means it predates Stonehenge, the Great Pyramids of Giza by a staggering 7,000 years, and predates the invention of writing, pottery, and metallurgy by millennia, and puts it smack dab at the Younger Dryas.
Younger Dryas.
And our friend Randall Carlson.
Talking about Göbekli Tepe too.
In his rough, gravelly voice.
Yeah. Younger Dryas.
I'm gonna need to get a drink now.
But Göbekli Tepe. He kind of says it like he hasn't
that?
slept in a week. What is that?
He says everything like he hasn't, like he just rolled out of bed.
He needs a lozenge
after a night of boozing.
Yeah, I know.
He sounds like what I imagine Mickey Spillane's Mike Hammer actually would have sounded like.
Yeah.
It was built by nomads, quote unquote. Mainstream archaeology states it was built by pre-pottery hunter-gatherer societies. The anomaly is how highly mobile bands of people with no established hierarchy or permanent infrastructure could organize such a massive labor force to quarry, carve, or move these stone monoliths. Number 4, it predates the wheel and metal, which I think that's a load of crap.
It's fun to think about, though.
No, the idea that anything predates the wheel, it to me that's ludicrous, because the wheel could literally be a log that you're rolling along. So it's true. Like the idea, if you're talking about the spoked wheel, then okay, maybe it predates the spoked wheel, but that doesn't necessarily mean it predates the wheel. The fact too is if you throw a rope over a rolling log, then all of a sudden you have a pulley. So it's like, I don't know. Anyway, thousands of workers who built the site had no draft animals, allegedly, no wheels and no metal tools. And guess what else was built without metal tools? The temple, Solomon's temple, was built without metal tools.
That's true.
The incredibly intricate high relief carvings and massive blocks were shaped entirely using crude flint, wood, and stone hammers. Architectural and geometric anomalies, the geometry of the enclosures, computerized spatial analysis of enclosures B, C, and D reveal something startling. The central pillars of these 3 separate structures form a nearly perfect equilateral triangle, which suggests that a grand architectural floor plan was drawn up before a single stone was laid, which means that somebody had geometry in this time when they didn't even have a wheel, which I think is kind of interesting.
Unless it's supernatural. Unless it's like,
a Nephilim or a fallen
Watcher.
angel or something, Watcher. We're going to get, I don't think those are the guys who made it. And we'll get to that in a minute.
Wait.
Okay. So the mind-boggling scale, the central T-shaped pillars stand up to 18 feet tall and weigh between 10 and 20 tons, which, as we talked in the last episode of Nan Madal, there's estimates is that some of these go up to 50 tons, and some of the stones at Nan Madal go up to 50 tons. It's like,
what kind of rock is it made of? What kind of?
It's I don't know. I don't know what. I'd have to look. Maybe we'll look that up in a little bit, but I don't know. I imagine it's got to be a heavy duty rock to be able to be buried and then dug back up.
It dug back up and still intact. Like it didn't disintegrate or whatever is on it.
Exactly. This is what's crazy. Speaking of disintegrating and sealing, the floors are liquid tight. Several of the enclosures feature terrazzo floors made of lime plaster that are completely impermeable to water. This implies that the builders deliberately designed the spaces to hold, catch, and prevent the leakage of liquids, whether water, blood, or fermented beverages. So here's another thing. Now we're getting into science. Somebody at that time period had the science to invent a lime plaster. Because I'm thinking about this. You don't just make a plaster.
Yeah.
You have to decide, okay, if I slap mud on this and it hardens, is that going to work?
Right.
Okay, well, now let's see if I mix ash in with it. That doesn't quite do what I want it to do. Oh, if I mix lime in it, well, where we got to get lime? It's like you got to figure all these things out. They just don't appear overnight,
But it's that old phrase: the necessity is the mother of invention. There was a necessity to. Now, why was there a necessity to make it like that? To make it, and then they invented based on that. So it's like you almost have to go back. Like, what's the function of it in order to see the result?
And they would have had to have decided, okay, we're going to make this to where water will not penetrate it.
Yeah. Why? Yeah.
We're going to get back to that too in a minute.
Yeah.
Number 8, faceless giants. The iconic T-shaped pillars are widely accepted to be highly stylized anthropomorphic figures. They feature carved arms, hands meeting at the stomach, ornate belts, fox skin. I don't know how they know they're fox skin, loincloths, yet they are entirely faceless, portraying a blank, otherworldly presence. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, we talked about this a little bit with Nan Madal. I still wonder when you have something that massive and that, tall, that is it something that's meant at a distance to thwart or ward off something that's going?
That's
I don't want to go over there.
Good idea.
Because I don't want to go over there because look at those things over there. Now it could be the
structure, it's on top of a hill,
but it's anthropomorphic, already. So it could be there's something over there's a being over there that I don't want to mess with. Yeah.
So then we got the high relief menagerie. Unlike simple cave paintings of the era, Göbekli Tepe features sophisticated 3D and high relief carvings. Strangely, the artwork bypasses peaceful prey animals and focuses heavily on aggressive, venomous, and predatory creatures: scorpions, spiders, vultures, charging boars, and roaring jaguars.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because jaguars are an animal, from what I understand, from South America.
Yeah.
Why are they in Turkey? Do they have jaguars in Turkey?
They might have been in the Ark.
Maybe. Okay.
Dumped them off in Turkey.
The mysterious handbag, several well, guess where we're at?
Yeah.
We are not that far away from Mount Ararat.
Yeah.
With Göbekli Tepe. The mystery handbag, several pillars feature a strange recurring motif found in various unrelated ancient civilizations like Sumer and the Olmecs.
Yep.
Carvings of small stylized handbags or baskets. I don't find that very odd. I mean, in a culture, if you took pictures of people nowadays, you might have a like just say you drew a picture of a street scene. It's very possible you're going to have people wearing handbags. You're going to have people carrying baskets and stuff. It's like, and in a time period,
I think it's zeitgeist.
Yeah,
because you would have that there because it's normal. You'd have that now because it's normal now.
Yeah.
Because the motif of those bags, if you've seen them, they all look the same. Like what
well, that is true. They're all exactly the same.
What is it?
But if you ask a little kid to draw a handbag, every little kid's going to draw a handbag exactly the same, probably.
I guess when you think of like the culture of how people were living, and we've talked about this before, that there's a function and desperation, and it takes a lot to have luxury. You have to have everything else in place before you'd have, you'd have something that would be, that you would decorate yourself with, or like
true.
So it's like, and even more that you'd find it a necessity to depict somebody else with it.
But if you're a hunter-gatherer society, follow me with this.
Okay.
When we draw a picture of Indiana Jones, we draw his hat, we draw his whip, we draw his satchel. It's always a part of who we think of with Indiana Jones.
Right.
If you're a hunter-gatherer society and 90% of your efforts in life are to gather food, then a satchel is going to be something that every single person in the culture is going to carry all the time with them, because you don't know. You might be out there just wandering around and find a berry bush. Oh, well, I better gather all these berries and bring back to the tribe. So to me, it's like, I don't think it's that. It isn't as interesting to me that every single culture on Earth has a handbag in their motif. That just seems like I would expect that, you know? But what I don't expect is the carved skull cult, or the fact that they had JHS petals buried all over. No, that's not true. But the skull
we'll get to that later.
The carved skull cult. I just wanted to throw that out and see what you would do. The carved skull cult. Deep within the site, archaeologists found fragmented human skulls featuring deep, deliberate flint-carved grooves and traces of red ochre. This suggests a bizarre and macabre form of ancestor worship, or a prehistoric skull cult that engaged in sky burials where they leave the bodies out for the vultures, and then when they're clean, they bury the bones later. There is a connection with the Younger Dryas. The founding of Göbekli Tepe aligns almost perfectly with the end of the Younger Dryas, a period of sudden cataclysmic climate shifts and mass extinctions. Some researchers argue the site was built to commemorate or survive the global chaotic era. And by the way, Randall Carlson, I didn't mean to imply that you were an alcoholic or anything like that. You've got that sound that if you were in a movie, you would sound like the half-drunk detective the morning after, is all I'm saying.
Oh, you sound like Grover's dad.
Number 13, Pillar 43 is the Vulture Stone. A specific pillar features an intricate arrangement of a vulture, a scorpion, and a headless man. Maybe the scorpion stung him and the vulture ate his head. I don't know. But alternative...
What just happened here? Well, the scorpion came over.
Yeah, right. Alternative researchers like Martin Sweatman have argued that these animals are actually astronomical stamps representing constellations, acting as a permanent star map record of a devastating comet impact around 10,950 BC. And what's interesting is that grok, apparently people were doing a lot of research with grok.
Yeah.
And I can't find for sure if this was actually authentic or if it's just something that people are posting based on Martin Sweatman's research.
Yeah.
But it seems like maybe grok agrees with him that these are actually star charts and not some kind of proto-language.
Okay.
There's a precise celestial alignment, which kind of leads to believe that maybe they're star charts. Ongoing astronomical or archaeoastronomical studies suggest that the enclosures were repeatedly renovated and reoriented over the centuries. Theorists argue that central pillars were designed to track specific celestial phenomenon, such as the lunar standstills, the rising of Sirius, or the constellation Orion. Then we're getting down to the last real weird mysteries. They deliberately buried and preserved it. This is probably the weirdest fact of all. Around 8000 BC, after centuries of use, the builders didn't just abandon the site. They meticulously and intentionally buried it under hundreds of tons of dirt, stone, and animal bones. It was transformed into a massive artificial hill, perfectly preserving it for 10,000 years. Now, I didn't really delve into the animal bone aspect, but I really should have. I'm wondering, I'm wondering if there's a layer of animal bones. And if it's a layer of animal bones, that would totally go with the rest of my theory.
Gosh, I can't wait for it.
Why commit cultural suicide? The intentional burial of the site requires almost as much labor as building it. So why backfill a sacred sanctuary? Theories range from hiding it from an invading threat, and it was up on top of a hill, killing the temple when its religious cycle ended, or treating the entire complex as a great time capsule for future generations. there's a lost civilization theory because the architectural sophistication appears so suddenly in the archaeological record without local evolution. Fringe historians like Graham Hancock argue that Göbekli Tepe wasn't invented by hunter-gatherers, but was a technological transfer from survivors of Atlantis, basically. The sister sites of Tas Tepelar, and then there's Karan Tepe, Cyberk, Harbestuvan Tepesi. They all feature the same T-pillar architecture, proving the weird culture spanned a massive geographic footprint, but it's all pretty much within that Turkish area leading up to Mount Ararat.
Was the guy that found it, was his name like Julius or Claudio or something like that? Kraus?
It was Klaus. Not Schmidt, but it was a German.
Like that. Yeah, okay.
He was a German archaeologist.
Yeah.
This was the birthplace of the first wheat. Geneticists have traced the DNA of modern cultivated eichhorn wheat back to the Karakodag Mountains, located just a short distance from Göbekli Tepe. This site is physically setting on the exact ground zero where humanity fundamentally changed its relationship with nature.
Wow.
And here's the big deal it's Klaus Schmidt was his name.
Yeah.
In 1994. 90% of it is still hidden, and it is now permanently hidden because the WHO has said nobody's allowed to dig there anymore, which is really, really strange if you ask me. Yeah. Now, what I asked was, are there any theories connecting it biblically? Didn't Josephus say that the sons of Seth carved in information onto Stone Temple somewhere? And in the first century writing from Josephus called the Antiquities of the Jews, in Book 1, Chapter 2, Josephus explicitly records a tradition about the sons of Seth, and he said that they knew that the world was going to face a dual destruction, once by fire and once by violence and quantity of water. So to ensure that their advanced astronomical discoveries and unique wisdom wouldn't be lost to history, the sons of Seth erected two massive pillars, one of brick that could survive fire, and one of stone that could survive a flood. And upon the stone one and the brick one, they carved in all of the astronomical information that they knew.
Wow!
And Josephus said that the stone pillar remains even to this present day in the land of Syriad, which I'm not exactly sure where that's at.
Yeah.
So that was Josephus said that. Yeah, I'm thinking. So some people like to think that this is a pre-flood capsule of some sort, like a time capsule left and then was deliberately buried.
Yeah.
Other people think that no, it was built after the flood when Noah and his people came off of the mountain of Ararat. Then maybe one of the first thing they did, because Noah built an altar to the Lord. Yep. What if this was the altar that Noah built? It doesn't explain the covering it up, and it doesn't explain the animal bones. To me, it makes sense that it was probably covered up knowing that the flood was coming. And then when all the animals died, we see all these massive pits of animal bones that are gathered together all over the world. Well, why wouldn't something like that be on top of a structure like this?
Yeah.
You know?
Makes sense.
So, and then other people claim that the Nephilim or the Watchers built it, and it makes it a more dark theory because when you get into the skull cult idea, where there are these intricately carved skulls that people are saying, well, maybe they were a ritual killing, and so that might be a Nephilim site.
Yeah.
And then other people say that because it's kind of a gathering place for hunters, maybe Nimrod built it, and it was like something he built before the Tower of Babel. Yeah. Like it was something to first gather the people together.
So that I would think the knowledge that Nimrod would have of lime and just the earth and elements, that sort of thing. Understanding what would hold water, what would be waterproof, that kind of thing. He would have that. He would have that knowledge.
You would think that think that he would.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, well, I want to know. The next thing I want to know is how is it that Bible people square the Younger Dryas era with Noah's flood? Because I get to watch these young earthers, and then I get to watch the Alberinos, and the people like Alberino and Steve Quayle. They are gap theory people, and I think we kind of fall into the gap theory a little bit too.
Sure.
But I do like to listen to the young earthers from time to time. But it's like the thing that causes me to, and this is going to become important in this whole discussion. The thing that causes me to I don't want to say ignore, but what's the word I'm looking for? Not take as serious, I guess. Is there a word for that? Maybe relegate their theories. Yeah. Temper my passion for their theories.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
The thing that causes me to do that is the fact that they always use the Masoretic text.
Yeah.
And I don't trust the Masoretic text.
Yeah.
And I want to say something too. I am very much opposed to the current flavor that or temperament that's happening in our culture right now, where a lot of people are blaming the Jews for all sorts of things again, and all the poisonous rhetoric that's going around bad-mouthing the Jewish people and saying we're a pawn of Israel and all this kind of stuff. All of this is coming from, the money for this is coming from Muslim sources.
Yeah.
And it's like whenever you hear people talk about that, you need to run away and turn that person off, because you can't trust what they're saying.
Yeah.
Especially when they bring up something like the Priory of Zion, which has been debunked, and the Nazis use that, and it's a horrible thing, and I don't like that. I will say this, though. There was a very definite excuse and reason for the Jews after the Christian era to want to change the Masoretic text to reflect idea that maybe Jesus wasn't the Messiah.
Right.
And so literally the creation of the Masoretic text was to kind of be used for people to stop Jewish people from going and following Jesus. Because a lot of Jews in the first century just became Christians overnight, along with all the people in the clusters of where the Great White Robe Brotherhood, where if you go read my book, Sacred Fire, you'll find out about that, where all of that has, I would say that's pretty much why I don't like the Masoretic text. I think that it's pretty provable that it's kind of been corrupted, and we know that the Dead Sea Scrolls really gives a lot of validity to the Septuagint. So I want to make that point clear before I even go into the rest of this.
Yeah.
That I'm going to lean heavier on the Septuagint. So mainstream geology says that the Younger Dryas happened between 10,900 BC and 9,600 BC. Traditional biblical chronology based off of Archbishop James Usher's dating puts the flood at around 2348 BC, which is 4,300 years ago. So we've got a big gap between the Younger Dryas and Noah's flood, according to Usher.
Yeah.
So that leaves a gap of about 7,000 to 8,000 years. So there are three camps that kind of reconcile this. There's the chronology gap theory, which is an expansion of the biblical timeline. So if you follow the Septuagint, then you're going to see that there are actually extra generations in there, which will push the flood back at least about 1,000 years more. So now instead of being 2300 BC, we're talking 33, maybe 4,000 BC. So, and some people will claim that that's enough to even get us all the way back to the late part of the Younger Dryas. I don't quite believe that, but we'll get to that in a minute. Then you've got the idea that young Earth creationists throw out there that flawed radiocarbon dating is the answer to this whole situation. And so their idea is that when the flood happened, it completely disrupted the Earth's atmosphere, carbon cycle, and rock layers. And because radiocarbon dating relies on the assumption that the ratio of carbon isotopes has always been stable,
Right.
they argue that post-flood samples register as millions or thousands of years older than they actually are. But here's the thing about this. The only thing, and what I found here in a minute, the only thing that makes this actually true is if the magnetic power of the Earth, it was stronger at one time and then gradually decreased.
Right.
Which I'm going to get to that in a minute. So then there's the gap creation theory, which is the old school theory that there's a gap between Genesis 1:1 and Genesis 1:2. And so it's kind of like, you could put a lot of the stuff in anywhere you want, depending on when Adam was created and how long Adam lived in the garden and,
Right.
and all that kind of stuff. And then there was a whole pre-Adamite world that was destroyed, and it brings up cataclysmic ideas over and over and over again. And so basically, I want to skip ahead in my notes. Okay, the Jim and I told me that when we pull in the Septuagint, then all of a sudden it changes things significantly. And it puts in a 1,300-year discrepancy in the genealogies. And so from the creation of Abraham, it is approximately 2,000 years off. Or from the creation to Abraham, it's anywhere between 1,000 and 1,300 years off from the Masoretic text. And which I think I just said that. But the reason why I like to use the Septuagint is because it lines closer to the Dead Sea Scrolls than the other one. And when everybody says, well, we want to go back to the Hebrew, then you need to go back to the Dead Sea Scrolls. You can't say that the Masoretic is the Hebrew, because the Dead Sea Scrolls is the older Hebrew.
Yes, absolutely.
So I hope I've made that clear.
Yeah.
Go up. Okay, so there was a guy that I was listening to he's a young earther, but he was also a paleontologist.
Okay.
No, that was a different guy. This guy was an astrophysicist, young earther. But he was a little bit different than a lot of the other young earthers, and the fact that he puts a lot of his lack of faith in the carbon dating based on the idea of the Earth's magnetic field being stronger at one point. And he said there comes a point in time when the magnetic field can be so strong, it literally would rip everything apart on Earth. And so you can't go past that date, or else what you have is an Earth that the magnetic field is too big for anything to actually exist on the Earth. And I'm like, oh, well, that's kind of an interesting thing, unless the magnetic field fluctuates. But what he showed is that the magnetic field does actually get back to the Younger Dryas. So somewhere around the Younger Dryas, the Earth's magnetic field was extremely more potent than it is today. And this is not something that he just came up with on his own. This is literally something that scientists for a long time have talked about, and how they see that the Earth's magnetic field was more potent. But what nobody ever talks about is what effect that would have on carbon-14. And what the effect that it would have on carbon-14 is that on an Earth with a much stronger magnetic field, what you would find is that carbon-14 is much slower to accumulate than it is in an Earth where you, like today, where we have a less of a magnetic field.
Yep.
And so carbon-14 is not, and it's demonstrably, and this isn't a young Earth creationist thing, this is actual science.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's demonstrable that carbon-14 is not a linear thing, and you can't really base and get the same kind of dates because you literally have to adjust for the curve of how strong the magnetic field was at the time whenever that carbon was deposited.
Right.
Did that make sense, or am I?
It does. No, makes total sense.
It's a little hard for me to grasp. I'm trying to put this in, and I'm still I'm still trying to get this all down myself. So what we have is, if that's the case, then now we have to go and check out our time scale between when the Younger Dryas allegedly happened, which was 12,000 years ago, if you go by the carbon dating that as a linear thing. But if you add in the factor of I think, see, I'll just read to you what it told me. I asked it, okay, I heard an astrophysicist talking about this just the other day, and he said we can easily prove that 6,000 to 7,000 years ago the magnetic field was stronger. Mm-hmm. And he says if that astrophysicist was referring to the specific measurable spike in the Earth's magnetic field around 6,000 to 7,000 years ago, they were almost certainly talking about the Levantine Iron Age geomagnetic anomaly, which was a spike that was that happened about 3,000 years ago, which is kind of when the Septuagint puts the flood of Noah.
Right. Yep.
So he's saying when he did, I had it run the math, and it basically came out and said that if you factor in the change in carbon dating with the date, then that pulls the Younger Dryas up to almost that same time that the Septuagint puts Noah's flood. Mm-hmm. And so now we've got the idea that if the Younger Dryas actually is at the same time that the Septuagint puts Noah's flood, then that means that this thing was either built directly after Noah's flood, as maybe the temple that Noah built, or it was built directly before the Noah's flood, and it might be one of the pillars that Josephus talks about that the sons of Seth did to put all of their astronomical time dating on.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it blows my mind. So it's kind of like, okay, well now, and there's a lot of math that's on here that is like kind of over my head because I'm not much of a mathematician, but it basically says that there was a global reset somewhere about 3,500 to 4,000 BC. Well, that's real darn close to the time period that the Bible says in the Septuagint timing, and it's real darn close to Randall Carlson's favorite time period, Younger Dryas.
Yeah. Well, what else is Noah's flood but a global reset? I mean, that's what it is.
Exactly.
It's a global reset. That's awesome. That's crazy good.
So now that we figured that out here at the Hidden Citadel, you've heard it here first. It took a little bit of... This is what I love about AI. Okay, I know that we did an episode on the old channel about is AI the beast? I do think that AI will be used one day to be really, really bad. Yeah. But what I like about AI so far is it's a really good search engine and it's a really good calculator. Yeah. And so it's like if you know the right questions to ask and you're educated enough in the field that you're trying to study, you can really get a lot of good information out of AI if you use it properly.
Right.
And it's other thing too. I want to say I've had so many negative comments, not in the Citadel, but in my other thing where I have used like some AI. I made a poster for my Ren Fair Act where I had the AI generate some frogs that looked like they were from the medieval marginalia. And so I took all those and then I made up an old-fashioned looking, sign and an advertisement for my band. Well, I got so much hate because, you shouldn't be using AI art, at the Ren Fair and blah, blah, blah. And it's, we're craftsmen and artisans and all this. And I'm like, okay, well, what about Terry Gilliam? Terry Gilliam didn't draw all those things. They were cut out of magazines and he made all those cartoons. What about Picasso, who did collage art, or all these other famous artists that did collage? Warhol, that did all this collage art. And it's like, you're telling me that what they did wasn't art, but it's the exact same argument that they took a pre-generated piece of something that somebody else made and then they reworked it into their own type of art. And it's like, to me, I remember when Photoshop first came out and people were saying, well, this is horrible, this is going to kill
first CGI. They're complaining about everything.
And then they griped about how it was going to put Lightroom workers out of business, and it's like, technology dies, which is kind of what we're talking about here with Göbekli Tepe, is that technology dies and is lost, and then we have to go back and kind of piece together how it was done back in the old days. And it's like, I think that the case is very, very strong that when Noah's flood came and disrupted everything, it buried so much technology that we don't understand. And that when we do dig things up, it's been so destroyed that we find things that are just parts, like a hammer buried in a chunk of coal, or a bell inside of a piece of rock or something.
There's a Heisenberg's uncertainty principle application here, that when we try to discover where it is and what it is, we're altering it, because as we're trying to unearth it, it disrupts its original form, its original function, maybe its preciseness, whatever it is. So we don't get the actual thing; we get the altered thing.
We do.
Pun intended.
I want to show a picture to kind of. I'll pop this up on the screen to kind of explain this whole thing. So, in my picture, I have one section that says Unlocking Ancient History, the Göbekli Tepe Solution, How Textual Accuracy plus Geophysics Reconciled the Bible and Archaeology. The problem, the conflict, why do the timelines disagree? Archaeology says that Göbekli Tepe was built in 9000 BC or 11,500 years ago or so. Traditional theology says that Noah's flood occurred around 2300 BC. And the mystery is the flood, which reset the world, apparently occurred 7,000 years after the oldest temple structure was built by a sophisticated civilization. So attempt one is the Masoretic timeline. The Young Earth of Ussher's framework tries to use the Masoretic as their source text, and the approach insists that the 2300 BC flood data is literal and absolute. The result, we must reject 95% 95% of standard carbon dating and archaeology, and put Göbekli Tepe as a post-flood site, which makes it about 7,000 years off. And then the second attempt is this gap theory, which us and Tim Alberino and several other people kind of fall into.
Just the handsome
multiple, the handsome ones. Multiple cataclysm framework is that cataclysms happen every so often, and that there was a massive gap between Genesis 1:1 and 2. This puts Göbekli Tepe with the dinosaurs. Also, if we follow I asked it what would this mean about dinosaurs? And it said, it would put dinosaurs right there and bring them up into the Younger Dryas area or era. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So the synthesized model that I came up with what is this, Gemini, is that you need the right key for the chronology. So the key is you need the Septuagint because it is the older text and it expands the pre-flood back another 1,500 years. Let's just round it off. And then the second part is you need the physics, which is the Earth's decaying magnetic field. Mm-hmm. And so when you put them together, then all of a sudden it gets you back into they line up with each other. And so that little chart right there, folks, you can take a screenshot of it, is how we put the Göbekli Tepe into its place where it belongs in history.
That's
and with Noah's flood and all that stuff. So I don't claim to be a great researcher like some of these guys that are out there making movies and stuff, but I'm telling you what, if you like our research, if you like our research, you really should go check out our stuff, because we have I've done a lot of research in Jesus, Son of God, done a lot of research in Hard Rain. I've done a lot of research in my new book, Sacred Fire. And, but we also have fun stuff like Parable of the Talons. We have the Encyclopedia of Weird Crap and Parafables. Mm-hmm. If you're a musician, my Mandolin Dead Man's Tuning books, or music and lyrics and music theory for aspiring songwriters. I got my Ren Fair Magic book, which has a lot of my research in the child ballads. Yeah, is really in the latter half of that book. Mm-hmm. And then if you really like us and you want to support us, you can always get one of our fabulous T-shirts, like I'm wearing today, the Hidden Citadel, at redbubble.com. I am working on a brand new line of T-shirts that I've been designing over the last couple days, which, man, when you see them, I think you're going to be so excited about how cool they look. So I've been working on that. And then we have our bands. Greg's band, the Brothers Graham, has new songs that just came out recently, and I have no new songs to brag about, but I do have a lot of my older songs from the Fantastic Flying Frogs. Yes, they're still good songs. You can go listen to them. Yeah. I always hated listening to my recordings for the longest time, because I was like, they're just not up to what I want them to be. But I will say most of the songs that I've released with the Fantastic Frogs, I'm pretty proud of. I really like how they came out and the production on them and everything. So I was really blown away when I heard another artist talk about the $12,000 he spent to record his album. And I was like, and this guy's a pastor, that, and I'm like, dude, why did it take you, cost you $12,000 to make an album? It's like, but then again, not a lot of people are multi-instrumentalists like we are. So, I mean, maybe that might be part of it. Maybe he just writes the songs and doesn't play anything.
And brings people in.
I don't know. Yeah. But I'm like, it can be very expensive, and a lot of people think that making music is easy, but it can be costly, but it's not expensive to buy. So if you like our music and want to support us, you can go to Amazon and buy the MP3, and that would be a really fun way of kind of supporting what we're doing over here at the Citadel. But I don't know what a Göbekli Tepe or a Vulture Stone pedal or a Scorpion. Scorpion would be a nice pedal.
Yeah, but Vulture Stone sounds cool.
That sounds like a JHS pedal.
It does.
And it should be like a vulture on a rock puking.
Yeah. Yes. But really simplistic drawing. Like that.
Yeah.
Almost stick figure. Yeah.
Yeah, or he could just do the big T stone, and that would be a very simple, graphic for him.
I feel like the Vulture Stone it needs just to be just a straightforward, gain pedal.
Gain, yeah.
Yeah.
I think so too. It has some compression, so it brings down
compression. Yeah.
Adds a lot of grit into the signal. And when you hit it, it's just like
very granular.
It's like, it has to sound
Yeah.
kind of like Randall Carlson singing.
That's it. It has to sound like it needs a lozenge or just a good expectorant.
It's a choked off.
Yeah,
choked
get
off,
that phlegm out of there.
You know,
Swish it around. When you hit it, just goes
distortion.
He loves the fuzz. It's funny.
He does.
Josh Scott loves the fuzz, but to me, I like more of the cleaned up. The fuzz
I like a lot of
sometimes just
clean
gets
tones.
me. But I like if it's like that's why I like the DS1. It's the distortion.
Yeah.
It's very contained. It's not like I like raw.
I don't know as a church musician how you get to use that much distortion that he likes. And
the fuzz? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like I know he probably plays in other bands too.
Yeah. Well, Tube Screamers work really well with church music, I think.
Tube Screamers do. I will say that, and I've used them before.
Yeah.
But I tend to I have to come up with if I can achieve that Fender Twin almost edge of distortion tone that Clapton used, and maybe add a little bit of Clapton's chorus, and I find that works the best when I'm playing in church, you know. So it's like it's actually pretty simple to get my church sound that I use, and then whenever I use like my double neck where I play the 12 string and I go back and forth between it and the lead on the 6 string, it's kind of like, you know, you don't want a whole lot of effects going on with the 12 string anyway.
No.
So
it's its own chorus.
Yeah, it really is. Although there are some things like reverb sounds really good with the 12 string.
We should do an episode where we do music and we extract one figure from history from the timeline and how that would change how things are right now. Like, for instance...
Oh, dude, that'd be interesting.
In church music, if there's one in current church music, if you take out this secular character, it changes everything.
Yeah.
Who is that
Bono.
character? Not Bono, the other guy.
No.
Edge.
Elvis? Oh, Edge.
Edge.
That's true.
Because Edge with the Joshua Tree sound... That Daniel Lanois, whatever his name is, Daniel
Lanois,
it was the reverb, it was especially the delay. Yeah. That was in everything. And
I'll tell you what,
it still is. Like, you find that dotted quarter.
You could go back further and you could take out Elvis or Bob Dylan, and then you wouldn't have a Christian music scene. No. Because it was like Elvis was pushing for it, and when Bob Dylan got the Grammy for Gotta Serve Somebody, it launched the Christian industry.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you take either of those guys out, and that completely changes it too.
It's so funny because every time I'm hearing, I watch guys like, how to play one of the Hillsong songs or something like that. That immediately they have that edge. It sounds like Edge. I mean, if Edge didn't happen, if there was no Joshua Tree, I don't know where the sound would be. It would be like Stryper or something. Like,
maybe it's possible.
Petra
or whatever Amy Grant's backup group sounded like. It'd all be Michael W. Smith, sounding stuff.
Amy Grant is related to Led Zeppelin?
No.
Every single one of her songs is an Amy Grant song. I'm the land of Nashville. Amy Grant.
Oh, man. I don't know. I'm not in love with the trajectory of Christian contemporary music. But it's mainly because I like U2, but I don't like that much U2.
I think it's called... I'll send it to you. You'll like this. It's called I Needed This Chris or something like that. I Needed This. It's a guy's name. Huh. It is I'll send it to you. It's a good. I went and saw Phil Wickham. Sound. Oh, Phil Wickham.
The other day, he was pretty good, and he had some lady, I can't remember her name, but she sings the "I Left It in the Water" song. and I think it's like a
Ophelia?
baptism. No,
From Hamlet?
I was thinking Ophelia from what's that band?
Taylor Swift? Oh.
No, well, she sucks. The Lumineers.
Oh.
Ophelia.
Yeah. Ophelia drowned in Hamlet.
Yeah, in Hamlet. Yeah.
No, I'll send you these guys. These guys are really good. Phil Wickham to me is funny because he'll sometimes he sounds like he has a speech impediment, and he'll go. So it's like he did a version of Awesome God that has like almost a rap, so. But he goes, "God is great. Give us the praise."
Yeah, right.
He sounds like Elmer Fudd.
He kind of does.
He
didn't really sound that way in the concert, but I do kind of like his version because I felt like Rich Mullins' lyrics for the verse were not very well.
No, putting on the Ritz. Like no,
yeah, that never. But come I'm from the same town as Rich Mullins, and a lot of people I know knew him.
Yeah,
and I know that he meant well, but it's he wrote great choruses.
Yeah,
but a lot of times his verses were a little bit. Except Creed, that is like one of the best songs he ever wrote, and I really love that song. But see, I'm thinking like in general. Somewhere between 2004 or 3 or 4 up until about 2015, music in general was at kind of a peak. I really liked most of the music that was coming out in all sorts of genres at that time. And then somewhere around 2015, it all just took a nosedive, and I haven't liked pretty much anything that's come out since then.
The dialectic is when something emerges and becomes like excellent or well accepted, then the dialectic is try to replicate, and then everything comes out in reaction to it, usually not in opposition to it, but it becomes oversaturated to the point you're sick of it, and that now something needs to replace it. So that dialectic kind of happens there.
Well, the other thing too is I think at the time it was reflective. I'm going to say from around 2010 to about 2015, we almost had a mirror image of what was happening in the late 60s. In the late 60s, people were really experimental, and they were throwing out all sorts of different types of music. And so there was just a plethora of, you had Motown, and you had the Beach Boys stuff, and the Beatles stuff, and you had Hendrix and Dylan, and Zeppelin comes along, and all these different bands that sound nothing alike. Southern rock, was getting momentum, and Cream came along, and and the sound of the music at that time was, as you listen from one song to the next on the radio, nobody sounded the same.
No.
And in 2010 to 2015, it was happening again, where it was like all sorts of different styles of music, and even on the Christian charts, there were just lots of different styles, and then all of a sudden and everything had to sound the same.
I just felt that's where the saturation comes in, and you think you need to do what everybody else is doing in order to sell. So
yeah, probably so. I don't know. Well, anyway, I can't think of anything else about Göbekli Tepe that we need to tell anybody. So until next time, people, stay in the Citadel because
night is coming.
The watchman replies, morning is coming, but night will soon return.